Okay, we are at another stone circle now in Cumbria in the Lake District. This is Long Meg and her daughters. The daughters are the actual circle itself, and Long Meg is this beautiful stone here made of a different type of material to the main circle, obviously this red sandstone here. But what's so interesting about this particular monolith is that it has these quite incredible cup and ring marks, is what they refer to them. And what you find is that in areas where mysterious lights are seen often, and you have similar megalithic structures, that these particular types of designs are often found. And it wouldn't surprise me if that they actually do represent mysterious lights, you know, because so you've got like a central core with these radiating concentric rings coming out. And, you know, in other words, is this a representation of the UFO intelligences that they themselves were communicating with?
Right.
I think that's a really strong possibility. So what's your first impressions?
No, but it's clearly different as opposed to the other rocks here. So this one is the one with the significance, and I presume this is also the only one with carvings on it. The rest do not have this, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's very possible that mysterious lights would have been seen in association with some of these hills, possibly even that one in the distance. And the reason I say that is because again and again you find that there's this relationship between the placement of ritual landscapes in association with a hill where mysterious lights are seen both in the modern day and historically. You know, in other words, there are accounts of them, and that this is part of that same tradition. But the other interesting thing about this stone circle is that it's exactly 360 feet in diameter. Now, obviously 360 is a very interesting number in its own right, and if we assume that the foot was a very ancient measure, then I see that as significant. And what's interesting is that there's a stone circle in South Wales called Wanmore, which is where the blue stones that are currently forming the horseshoe at Stonehenge were actually taken from that stone circle and moved from West Wales all the way to Salisbury Plain. And that particular stone circle is also 360 feet in diameter. So there's very clearly a significance in that number and that size. So we have to also assume that these monuments had very specific size measurements and geometry, something that obviously Alexander Thom, professor who engineered and surveyed so many of these stone circles, realised that they all had this incredible geometry, mathematics, Pythagorean triangle. So that we've got to factor in as well.
What was the distance that they moved those stones? And it's not a plain, it's not an even surface that they moved it across. I mean, it's valleys and bodies of water and everything, right?
The distance from West Wales to Salisbury is about 150 miles.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And they don't know how they did it. It may have been by water, it may have been overland. There's a lot of debate over that. But what it shows is the importance in the actual type of rocks that were used. In other words, you know, the fact that this one is made of sandstone and the other ones are made of a type of probably gritstone, which is a different colour, is significant. You know, in other words, nothing is done by
coincidence. Exactly, I agree with that. I have almost the same experience with many of these, visiting these stone circles, that you always wonder why, because transporting these blocks, especially this big one right here, it's not easy. And yes, there was tons of people back then, but you know, David Childress always said it had to have been easy. And this clearly was not easy. And you have to wonder then, what was it for? So this idea, what you were saying earlier, that perhaps they witnessed something here because they had all the time in the world to observe, to me is significant. That, because I always think that the stone circles came, or most of these monuments came after something was witnessed and observed there, not before. And so these are all great places of incredible significance.
So one of the things about Long Meg Stone Circle which is really interesting is the geometry. Now it's actually a flattened B stone circle according to Alexander Thompson. This is almost like two circles, like a Vesica Pisces, you know, Vesica Pisces, like two circles kind of interlocked, and then you draw a shape round that, almost like a plectrum. I'll show you an image of it on here so you can see the exact geometry, and we'll have a look at some shots from above as well. And so they were accurately laying these out. This wasn't just a chance arrangement of stones, which a lot of people thought until Alexander Thom in the 50s realised there was something significant here. Even with Long Meg behind us, the main 12-foot stone, that's aligned to the midwinter sunset. So this was an astronomical site as well. There's many more alignments than this, but we're just having a quick visit. I want to show you the beauty and the magnificence of this place. The setting isn't quite as spectacular as Castle Rigg, but it's a much larger circle, there's many more stones, and it's rarely visited, so it's one of these places you can actually explore without too much interruption. So we're just walking around the perimeter of Long Meg now, and you can just see the magnitude of some of these stones. Actually, these are the daughters. Long Meg is the giant stone just over there. So we'll take a little walk around just so you can see some of the stones. We've had Giorgio and Andrew giving us their impressions of it, and some of the alignments and what the symbols may mean. But you can see like some of them are really chunky, like almost like kind of smoothed off chunks like this. I mean, that is not a light stone. That is like, it's like the size of a small shed. It's absolutely huge. And it just continues all the way around there.
This is the monolith known as Long Meg, and one thing that we've noticed about this is that it actually looks like a human head with the face. If you're looking from that angle, you've got the nose, you've got an actual mouth across here, and up here you've got what appears to be a very tall headdress, which would make the eye somewhere around here. And I find it interesting that one of the cup and ring marks is almost in the position of an eye. And what this tells us is that these stones were anthropomorphized. In other words, they were seen as representations of beings, perhaps the ancestors or human beings of some kind, or maybe even the first gods, and that they would have been seen as being endowed with spirit, endowed with an intelligence. So in other words, their erection, their positioning would have been part of bringing alive the spirit of the landscape, the genius loci. They would have represented that particular energy. And I find that quite significant that you've got that here with this stone, which is different to all the rest because of its colour. It's red. All the other stones of the actual stone circle are white. So there's an incredible amount of thought that's gone into the construction of this site, over and above what you would naturally assume, and that's the fact that there's geometry and mathematics and whatever. There's even more. There's a visual perspective to this that is incredibly important, and I think is often overlooked by academics who do not see things in quite the same way.
So we're in the middle of the stone circle here, as you can see. We're right in the centre, quite a long way from any of the stones, and we're looking straight towards Long Meg, the large stone here. And Long Meg is aligned to the midwinter sunset. But in the opposite direction behind us, so if you were standing on the other side of Long Meg, you would have the summer solstice sunrise occur. And so this is the main marker here, but we know through the alignments worked out by Alexander Thom, there's a lot more going on it, as there is at Castlereagh and other sites up in this area.
What is significant about this site is that it's built on a slope, which you have to say to yourself, why would you want to build a stone circle on a slope when you could quite easily have put it on flat land at a slightly different position? Well, the fact is that I think it's to do with perspective and walking from the centre point towards the top of the slope and looking out into the surrounding landscape. And I say that because from the centre, the only hill that you can actually see, and I say a hill, it may even be a mountain, is this one over here, which is just to the right as we look from Long Meg herself, and it's got like this, what they call a humpback in the centre. And to me, that singles out that hill, that mountain, as particularly significant. And what we want to do is to try and find out what that is and find out if there are any kind of legends, folklore, traditions of mysterious lights that would have been seen in connection with that, because to me that's highly significant, and that you would have moved from the centre of the stone circle up to the top of the slope, up to the edge of the circle itself, to more clearer see that landscape, those hills. And you know, that again is integral to the design and construction of this site. Blen Cathra is the name, as Renee here has just realised, and it's known as the Saddleback, and that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like, you know, the saddle on a large animal, a horse. And to me, this is a particularly important sighting line. And I don't know exactly what it would face towards, but there is something significant about that site which I am certainly drawn towards, and I'm pretty certain that the makers, the creators of this stone circle complex, were aware of that as well, and that's one of the reasons why they located it here, and specifically here at this site.
Do you think that they were deliberately toppled over, or is it just an illustration of the passage of time?
That's a good point. I think
they have come, fallen over.
I think a bit of both. I think there's a bit of both going on here, because you get like natural kind of erosion and wetness, and farmers just not caring. But like Stonehenge is falling apart. I mean, that's no one's really gone in to knock it over, I don't think. So I think it's just the same kind of thing going on here. But you get a lot of recumbent stones deliberately placed like below, as I mentioned.
That's true. Yeah.
But I don't know about this. This seems like it was all upright and it would have been quite pristine and nice at the time.
But the other weird thing is that if those stones are in their original position over here, then this is clearly not a circle. I mean, it's almost like a double line of stones in this area. And what's interesting about that is that it's in line with the Long Meg monolith itself. So once again, you have an area of more complex activity going on here, looking in a particular direction. And as I said, I think a lot of it's to do with what they could see on the landscape.
Well, this is absolutely massive. I mean, this is one of the largest stone circles I've been at. And, it reminds me almost of Avebury Circle, which is also kind of huge. Even though the stones at Avebury are bigger, but the two cube ones are absolutely comparable. So, what was the reason behind it? Because, if there was one stone circle, you could argue, okay, whatever. But the fact that there are so many, there had to have been a reason for it. And, our ancestors were as complacent as we are today. So there had to be a compelling reason to even do this. And You can, if you wanted to do something to do astronomical markers, guess what? A wooden stick or smaller stones would have sufficed. But I mean, this would be a treasure trove, in my opinion, for mathematicians, for people who are into geometry. So, you know, this place should be teeming with scientists.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, whatever, it's just a bunch of stones. It's not a bunch of stones.
No.
Because they're massive. Massive.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that I would suspect that the amount of stones here is significant. I would suspect the fact that the stone circle is 360 feet in diameter is significant if we do assume that the foot is an ancient measure. So, you know, everything's thought out. There's an obsession here, an obsession with getting it right, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just an obsession to get it right, it's an obsession to repeat the same pattern over and over and over again. I mean, in India, when you go to India, on all the temple and structure walls that are ancient and sacred, you have many renditions of the so-called stupa with the bell shape and all this. And it doesn't matter where you go in India, you find millions of those representations. Here in England, your stupa is the stone circles.
So we're just finishing up here at the beautiful site of Long Meg and her daughter's stone circle with Giorgio and Andrew here, just getting a selfie of me in the background, I hope. And it's just an amazingly beautiful day. So I hope you enjoyed our quick visit to Long Meg and also to Castle Rig, and we'll see you next time, Megalithomaniacs.